The Monday, July 29, 2024 special meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. For the purpose of this meeting, there is a quorum of the council present. Then item number 2, Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes unless an item is posted on the agenda. The Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to staff, to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personal matters, are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. If necessary, the City Council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. The floor is open if anyone would like to come up. Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the Citizens Forum. Agenda item number 3, receive a presentation from Baker Tilly Advisory Group, LP, regarding executive search services. Staff, do you have a presentation?
Yes, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, we have Director Ms. Patty Hamanover here this evening for Baker Tilly, and she has a presentation talking about the executive recruitment services that they could provide the city.
Mayor, Council, thank you very much for inviting me to be here tonight to talk a little bit about our presentation. I would like to kind of go high level with you, kind of going through and then kind of getting into the nitty gritty. Again, my name is Patty Hamanover. I am from Baker Tilly. And I have a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation to go through with you. And then I know you'll probably have questions for me at the end. Edward Williams, he is from the area. He was unable to be here tonight, and I absolutely enjoyed stepping in for him to be here for in his behalf. So Baker Tilly, we are one of the largest public and non-public sector searches. We have a unique process that I'm going to talk about with you tonight. And I'll go over that a little bit in a little bit more detail. We're all experienced. We're all full-time at Baker Tilly. We're not contracted. There is a small group of us that I will introduce on another slide. One of the things that we make sure that we do with every one of our searches is we want to try to exceed your expectation. That is our goal, is to do a great search and that we have a repeat client coming back to us. We will comply with all of the state, local, and federal laws along with the open meeting law and the public data request. We get a lot of those kinds of requests, and we work with your point person to make sure that we abide by all of those. We have conducted over 1,700 successful recruitments since 2000. And again, we are all full-time employees here. We recognize that each of the searches is unique. We have a process that we follow. We have a great vetting process, but this is your search. So we work with you as council and as mayor to make sure that you all understand what the process is and you're comfortable moving forward in it. We conduct a high quality search, and we also recruit very highly qualified candidates. And I'll talk a little bit about that process coming up here too. And we proactively identify diverse applicants in our searches. We use the latest technology so our applicants can make it very easy for them to apply for the position and to upload documents that we require. And then we offer a 12-month guarantee, so if anything were to happen, that this person were to be let go in the 12 months, we would be back here doing the search for you without our fee. This is our team. Edward would be the lead on this project. Ann Lewis, she is from the Virginia office. I'm from the St. Paul, Minnesota office. I would be supporting Edward on this search. Art is actually from the the Kansas City, and then Yolanda is from Chicago. Our support staff, Michelle, Diane, and Carrie, they support us on our searches. Baker Tilly is a national search. We are a big company, but the executive recruitment side of it is very small. And so I like that piece of it for the fact that we're able to give a lot of support to all of our clients in this area. The other thing too is we work as a team. We meet every Monday. We review all of the searches. So if something were to happen to Edward that he had to be out for a period of time, I would know exactly where we are in this search. Pick it up, and it's not going to be an issue at all. If Edward or myself were out of the office, which we are a lot because we're at clients, Michelle, Diane, and Carrie can pick up any of the additional support that is needed, and they can also be in contact with us at all times. So, Baker Tilly, the approach we take is we understand that every search is a little different, like I talked about. That's why it's important that we meet with you individually and then collectively. Gather what is important to you and in the search. We will be meeting with you individually, and we will be meeting with the department heads individually to understand what the culture is within the city and to understand what you're looking for in the next city manager. What we will then do is we will be focusing on a lot of communication through this process, and we will also want to listen. And that's what we do a lot of at the beginning, is listening and finding out what you want. So the first piece of it is we do the outreach, and we will do a national search, and that's how we'll outreach, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Then will be the application and the evaluation process, and then we will be presenting semifinalists to the council. And then we'll talk a little bit about the final vetting of our candidates. First thing is developing the brochure. So again, what we need to do is understand what's important to you. We'll be meeting individually with you, the search committee if there is any, and any designated staff and key stakeholders. There are some cities, what they like to do is to get as much input from the community as possible. The problem is sometimes when we do public forums, we don't get everybody that we want coming out and getting feedback. So we do have an option for a web-based survey. That has been really popular. We designed that with the questions that you will design it, you guys edit it based off of the information we receive from you. Then what we can do is we can put it on your website. We can put it in a QR code. We can have it at your board meetings, and people can just put their phone up to it and take it. We can also have paper copies, so the people that don't have the technology, we can provide that too. We gather that information and we put it into a report for you, and that information comes back to you. It's been very popular and very good. We don't interview all the staff. This also gives the opportunity for other staff members to participate in this process. How we design it too is this isn't a scientific survey, but what it does is it provides a lot of good information on how we're going to design it. And we also get feedback in if you have businesses that does business here but lives outside and wants to provide input too. So we have a lot of different ways we can design that, and it's been very, very popular. So when we will design the brochure, it is a compelling story on why someone should come here. This is what we're going to use as a recruiting tool to get out there and recruit. It will talk a little bit about your community, it'll talk about the organization, and then also it will give the the leadership opportunities, the desire capabilities in there, and then, of course, the salary and benefit information is going to be important. Then we launch the marketing campaign. What we'll do is we'll advertise, like I just said, as a national, it'll be a national. And the reason we do national is we're trying to capture people that would like to come back to the state or familiar with the area. And we're finding that after the pandemic, we were getting a lot of people notifying us and saying, if you have a position in this area, I want to come back. I want to come back to the area. They are realizing that family is very important to them, and they want to get back to areas that they are very comfortable. We will also, we get on the phone, we call individuals, and we have a huge database. Because we are a huge company, a search firm, we have a database of probably 70% of the city managers and city administrators out there and assistants. I'm going to back up just a minute. Once we start advertising, we'll be advertising for about a month out there. And our recruiting is very heavy internally. And what I mean by that is we are working on connecting individuals to to this opening. We are out there campaigning, we are out there emailing, we are out there calling people. And during that time, we will be providing you with a weekly update. That weekly update will talk about the timelines that are coming up. It'll tell us how many individuals have applied for the position, and then any demographics that they have provided to us will also be listed on there. We like that piece with the demographics, and the reason for that is it's telling us too, are we doing a good enough job getting out there and recruiting? And so that helps us too. These are some of the examples of where we would be advertising for the position, nationally and and local. We also use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very powerful for us. We get a lot of traction from LinkedIn. In 2023, 95% of the applicants provided their race, 98% of them provided their gender. And why this is important to us is for us to continue to see if we are improving in our recruitments. So we use a lot of the data to improve our strategies along the way. And example would be, this field is male-dominated. And we have to try to recruit more and more women. And the things that we have to do is strategize to make sure that we are. And these are things that we are doing to make sure that we get out there and advertise appropriately. We will also, once the brochure has been developed, we will be working with you to develop a timeline. And again, the timeline will be a draft timeline. Why we want to put that out is so we can value your time off, your vacations. We want to work around those. And we also want to give the candidates the opportunity to kind of know when those interviews would probably take place. That's really going to be important too. We don't want to lose any good candidates, but we don't want to speed the process up to lose candidates, but we also want to make sure that we're doing a really good job with this process. So that's why that timeline is really important for everybody, and that the candidates know when the possibility of interviews are going to be. So when they start applying on NeoGov, that's the system that we use, we will then also develop a questionnaire, and that's about 10 to 12 questions. That is what we'll use. And what we'll do is build that based off of the brochure. A resume and a cover letter, they can be professionally done, but they don't necessarily always give us the information that we want. If you want someone that is really out there in the community, if they have economic development, budgeting, whatever it might be, we need to find out really what their experience is in that area. That's what this questionnaire does, is to provide additional information. We also ask them to complete a due diligence form. What that is we'll ask them ahead of time the salary. Do they have any issues with the salary? And if they do, we want to know this stuff up front so we can come back and address it with you and see if there are issues. We don't want to get to the very end of a process and realize we have a good candidate and they have an issue with the salary. We also ask them in there if they've ever been terminated, if there has been a separation agreement. We just need to know that. And then what we will also do is ask them if there's anything out there in social media that would embarrass or is concerning that we need to be aware of before we do a Nexus search. And then what we will also be doing is we also along the way will be conducting interviews with these candidates that are highly qualified that are moving forward in the process. So then we will also have the semifinalists do a recorded video interview. Now the candidates don't like this piece, but our clients do because they really get a full picture when we present the candidates to them. What it is the candidates will have an opportunity to sit in front of a computer and they will be able to answer up to 3 to 4 different questions. They don't know the questions ahead of time. Once they start the computer, then it doesn't stop. They have to go through it. So what we have found is it has actually worked in favor of the candidates, because we had a candidate not too long ago. Their paperwork, I would say their resume, it wasn't the strongest. When I vetted them and went through this process, oh my goodness, this person just shined when you got to that video. So when I presented this information to the council, they had the information, they had the exact same thoughts that I did, as they were weak on the paper, but they were strong in the video. We brought them in, that person actually rose to the top. So when we present you with the semifinalist, you will receive the highly qualified candidates, their resume, their cover letter, their questionnaires, and a link to watch the video. Then we will, Edward will be back working with you to decide which of the candidates that you want to bring forward for interview. Now, say for instance you get 50 applicants. They're not all going to be vetted because they're all not going to be qualified for the job. We will determine based off of the criteria that has been given to us to determine which ones are going to be moving forward to go through this process. So we might end up vetting maybe 18 of them, maybe 20, but maybe they're not all going to come to you after we review all of the documentation. So it might end up being 12, 15 that you will have in front of you with the documents that I just described. And this was just this is what they see is they only get to see a computer. And what you will see is you will actually see the person with the interview. Another piece that I really like is the management and leadership assessment. We can do it one of two ways. We can actually have the council and the mayor take it, and what we do is it's based off of what you're looking for in the next leader. It's like 25 different competencies. We then take your information and mesh it together, and then what we do then is have the candidates take the assessment. The assessment looks at, are they a good fit based off of your recommendations. There is no right or wrong answer to this, and what we do stress to our clients is, you're not going to not bring someone forward because of this. What this helps us determine is that when this report comes out and we start to see some red marks, what that says is that this person, they're lacking in customer focus. They didn't think that that's really an area that's important. But in this illustration, it was very important to the city. For that case, what we do then is we start using probing questions to find out why this person doesn't believe that customer focus is that important, but it is to the city. So it's a really good tool to actually see for us to develop interview questions and to really see if it is a really good fit. We will also then do on the top candidates a criminal background check. We will also, in that, it will verify their academics, and then it'll also do a credit history. We will also do reference checks on the top candidates also. Then the interview process. Typically, if they're from out of state, the first interview is typically by Zoom with you, and then you determine which ones you want to bring forward for in-person interview. We will help you. We will help you design it. We will help you with the interview questions for you to edit, and we will help to make the reservations for the candidates to come here. Now, in our fee, the only thing that's not included is the candidates traveling here. That usually is picked up by the city. Then the second interview, we will work with you on determining how you would like to have that set up. How involvement you want the community to be. This is your search. We will work with you and your point people at the city to make this happen. We also ask the department heads to get involved because we want them to, the people that report to this person, we want to get their feedback too, and that's going to be important. And then what we do is we gather that information and provide it back to council before a decision is actually made. And again, we can do, get the stakeholders involved, we can set up a meet and greet, we can do presentations with the candidates. This is your search, we'll be discussing this if we are awarded the contract. We will also help you and support you with salary data if you need us to help you with that. We will help with the job offer and negotiations, and then the acceptance letter. If for any reason this search, we're here from the very beginning to the very end. If something were to happen that the top candidate withdrew and the second one you chose that maybe that's not the one that you want to go with, we're going to be here. We will, because this position would be open until filled, and we will then discuss what the next options are moving forward. So that's a little bit about the presentation of what we do and what we go through. And I know that you have probably a lot of questions for me, and I would be happy to answer any of those questions.
Council?
Typically, and I may have missed this in the presentation, typically how long do you have, well, go ahead, you know the question.
No, it was not in the presentation. I was supposed to talk about it and I forgot. Sorry. It usually takes 4 months from start to finish.
No, okay,
Oh.
so you didn't know the question. How long would you have the job, the position out on your site, until you shut it down?
So, I was going to get there. The whole process is going to take about 4 months,
Okay.
but we will be out there for 30 days out there advertising for that. And the reason for that is we really, we're on those sites that we talked about. We go through LinkedIn, and people take vacations and stuff, and we don't want to end up losing someone. So we have been really, it's been really good keeping it out there for a month. And usually when we're advertising at these places, it's a month that we're paying for that. Now, there has been a few times that a city says, we need to move a little quicker. And we say, okay, if we do that, we can do it for 3 weeks, but we just have to have an open mind. If we're not getting the quality of candidates, we're going to need to maybe keep it open a little bit longer. That's why it's important for us, through this whole process, is being very transparent to you on what is happening. And that's why we like those weekly updates, so you know what's going on, and we're providing you with where we are in the process. Because then once we start to vet the candidates, we give them about a week to complete the documents. And then from there, we have to compile everything and then get it back to you. We need you to have at least maybe a week to review all the documents before we meet with you. So those are the things that are causing us to go out a little bit further, that it takes about 3 to 4 months before you actually have someone on board.
Yeah, I couldn't see it being any less than 30
Okay,
days.
good.
You mentioned a community survey. If that is done for a city of 25,000, how many replies would you expect, and would that also expand the timeline, or is it
No.
neutral?
That's a very good question. What we would be able to do is we can actually be developing that as I'm meeting, or Edward, with the council and with the department. And so we can build that right away and then put it out there and keep it out there. And what has been very successful is the QR code. And what we would even also do is make little postcards, put them in City Hall, put them in the library, put them at the police department, anywhere that you guys have public coming in, so they can be able to take it. And then, of course, paper copies. And then what we also do is, on that weekly update, we can also say, here's how many people we have responded to the survey already. And if you say, we want you to keep it open longer, we can keep it open as long as you want, because that information is going to be very useful when it comes time for hiring.
Would you expect a couple of hundred, a couple of thousand?
So in your case, you would probably see, I would say probably about 200 or 300. A lot of times, you guys are out and about, and you're going to be hearing from communities, or your community, by going to the grocery store, going to church, and they're saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and you're already making notes of those things that you're hearing out there too. What we're trying to do is be as transparent as possible, trying to provide as much information from your community as possible, and make it easy for them to provide it. That's what's important.
How does a 12-month process work? So once the council has selected the city manager, do you do like a touch base with council, or do you keep up with that city manager that's been
Yep.
hired and say, hey, how's the first month going? How's the first quarter, 6 months?
Yes.
How does that work?
So actually, when it starts is when they actually start on the job. Okay? Because what we are finding is some of these contracts now, they're not releasing their city manager or city administrator. They're keeping them longer. So what's happening is there's clauses in these contracts that say that they have to be here for 30 to 45 days. Well, we don't want to start the clock until they actually are in the seat here. Then from there, we do have other services that we can also provide. Now, Edward and we always follow up periodically. How is it going? Do you have any problems, any issues? Do you need us to come in? Is there conflict or things like that? And then we would also be here, but then we also have actually another part of our division that works with council and new city managers.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions?
If we decided to include your firm to help find a finance director, so it would be 2 positions, give us an idea of how much that additional charge would be. Obviously, some of the legwork would be included already on the first step.
Here's the thing, I actually specialize in finance directors. And that's why I think Edward wanted me to come tonight, because we did hear that you may have that other position. Now, when that comes onto a search, it all depends on what you are looking for. Now, the brochure would be a lot easier to put together. You still need a brochure that has all the qualifications. And then what we do is we would be able to reduce that based off of some of that information. And then for a second search, we provide to our clients 10% discount on top of that. So I can't give you the exact dollar amount, but there is a reduction for us doing it. And because we already have a lot of the brochure, I mean, part of it, the city piece of it and the department, then we could pretty much start very quickly on that one, because we would have already have like a contract in place. We're not meeting with as many people. That will shorten the time. But I'm going to tell you, when you are looking for finance directors, HR directors, public works, those specialized positions, they're tough. And so we really have a lot of time spent on the outreach for that position.
Okay.
If you did need an exact, I would have to work with Edward, but for the ballpark, you do get a 10% reduction, plus there could be other things that you may say, we're not going to probably need this, and then Edward and I would work with the city on that.
So I have 2 questions. One, and this is asking your expert opinion about this, because I'm sure you've done this a lot. Because we're in a situation where it's kind of a unique situation where you need a city manager and a finance director, 2 important pieces, but they have to work together. So just asking your opinion, would it be better to get a city manager and then get the finance director, or does it even matter?
It does matter right now.
Okay.
Just because of what I just said is finance directors are very hard to find. If you can get a top-notch finance director now, move on it. And the reason for that is you can't go without a finance director. Without a finance director, you could put yourself into a lot of issues, because you're dealing with state money, you're dealing with federal money, and all the regulations that go with it. So I would suggest, it's not ideal, because the city manager wants to have their own team and build their own team.
Right.
But under the circumstances when you don't have that finance and you're going to be waiting for, 3 months before getting a finance director,
Well,
I would be a little concerned.
Well, let me stipulate this. We do have a top-notch finance director. He might retire at the end of the
Yes.
year. So it's not that we're without, like we are city manager. So it's a unique situation, but we do have someone in place that's top tier. But, I was just, so given that we
he's-
have, so now
Okay.
work on the scenario.
If he's willing to stay and a little longer, or to be able to mentor, or be able to be here, just to make sure things are being done correctly, then yeah, of course. Then it makes sense to have the city manager hire their own team.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you for clarifying, because now
Yes.
my answer changed a little bit
Yes.
because
Oh.
of what you told me.
And another follow-up on Mr. Kessel's question. So if you gave us a proposal for the finance director, and if we, hired you to look for the city manager, obviously, you can put that out there simultaneously, right? So if 4 months down the road, we got a city manager, you could already have all the legwork done for a finance director. So after the city manager, it wouldn't be much left for him or her to be a part of a finance director, right?
Correct.
It would shorten the time.
Yeah, so if we were to do both, that's what we would do. Because it takes a while for the finance director to do all of that. But I think that would be the best way, because then you have the candidates ready to go. When the city manager walks in, boom, they're ready to go with the finance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Hammond. We really appreciate you, and I think we should be making a decision here shortly, so.
Well, thank you so much. Edward and I would love to do the search. He is very familiar. We did the search 4 years ago for you, and we would love to come back and do it again. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, discuss and select an executive search firm to assist in the selection of a new city manager. So we've heard from 2 separate firms, and I'd like to open up the floor for discussion. Does anyone want to start?
I think we have a good track record with Baker Tilly. They brought us Grayson, so, and researched them some also, and I think that they're both are first class, but certainly I think Baker Tilly is at the top of my list.
Didn't we use, and I don't know, somebody's been here longer than me, didn't we use SGR to get our former city manager, not Grayson, but, what's it? The former city manager?
Yes, previous to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we use SGR, right? And I'm not sure about this, a citizen brought this up to me, that SGR missed something on the former city manager's record that should have came out. And it would have probably made a difference, but they missed it.
Anyone else have any input?
Right there here, presentations make a big difference, and I think we have 2 top-tier firms, but I like Baker Tilly, looking at the history with Grayson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ellis?
I like what they said, that they found Grayson, and so, and didn't she say something about 70% of city managers, they have, I forget how she worded it, but,
No.
somebody help me out, what did she say?
I think in terms of their searches that they've executed, they've had about that much. Yeah,
I like
Just-
them.
good deal.
I like Baker Tilly as well.
All right. Well, I know we've spent a lot of time researching the 2 firms. I've had extensive discussions with both of them, and they're both great. But I think I think that Baker Tilly is exactly who they are, and I'm excited to see if council sees us through, that they would be the one firm that we look at. They've had a good track record with our community. So has the other one, but I know Baker Tilly has worked with us extensively in the past, and I agree with you all on that. Seeing that being the case, would anyone?
Well, in this, I don't know if it's, Ms. Harris, you'll have to help me with this.
Sure.
Can we, just say if we decided to vote Baker Tilly tonight, can we direct the interim city manager to also seek that proposal for our finance director, just to get the proposal?
You can, and you may be discussing that
Okay.
in executive session, and your agenda covers coming out of executive session and act on matters that you've discussed in your executive session. So I would think that would fall into the category. And what you're going to do, you need a vote to select this firm and then direct us to bring you back the agreement. And if you're interested in that survey, she said that was an additional cost, we can have them give us an agreement with it and without it for your approval. We'd bring that back for your approval.
I kind of like the idea of a community survey, so there might be some good feedback that we're not thinking about that somebody else brings up. If 200 replies would be a pretty good number. If it's more than that, an extra $1,600 to make sure we get this right might not be a bad thing, in my opinion.
Right.
I agree, and, the last thing I want to hear from a citizen is we weren't heard. We didn't get a chance to have our say-so. No, we want everyone to have that opportunity to have their say-so. This should be an open discussion, and quite frankly, the leader who becomes our city manager really needs to be the person for all. And so we want that to be, I 100% agree with you. And this should be something that we all talk about. So with that being said, anyone have a motion?
I'd make the motion that we select Baker Tilly for the executive search firm for city manager.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second. All those,
To clarify, to include the optional community services survey, or is
Is that part of your motion?
Sure, that's part of it. Thank you.
still agree with that too? With your motion and a second? Okay,
A second.
so we got a motion and a second with that amendment in there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
And we'll bring that agreement back to you as soon as we can get it,
Fantastic.
possibly as quickly as your special meeting next week.
Good deal. All right, agenda item number 5, discuss and provide direction to staff regarding the possible appointment of an assistant city manager, director of utilities, and finance director. Mayor Pro Tem Savage had requested this item, so I will definitely turn the floor over to him.
Yes, so when I put this on, I had asked Ms. Harris to put this on the agenda. I wanted it broad, and so we could discuss all of these positions, but since then, interim city manager Rob Vine has sent out an email to all of us addressing our concerns with the assistant city manager and director of utilities. I think the thought of everyone is to hold up on it and wait, and he agreed. The only other question was finance director, and I know you could tell by my questions that it's my thought, and I want everyone to weigh in on this, my thought that we should wait, if we can, to get a city manager in place and let that person be a part of the finance director. Now, of course, I'm glad that Gene Anderson is here because he can set some direction on that as far as, it's two things. He can say, well, I'm not staying to train, and he can say how long it might take someone to familiarize themselves with Paris and the finances of Paris. Now, whoever we hire, we want to hire somebody that knows how to do the job. So that's not what Gene is not. He wouldn't be teaching a class on how to do the job. They should know that. But as far as how the city of Paris works, that's where hopefully Gene would play a part. So he could probably shed a little light on this. It's not asking you your plans. I'm saying how long it should take someone to catch up to speed.
No pressure at all, Gene.
Best I recall, when I came here, I overlapped with my predecessor about 6 weeks. And I don't know, I can't remember, that's a long time ago. But, yeah, I just basically shadowed him Because I'd been at the county for 8 years prior to that in what amounts to a similar job, and just learning departments and what's normal operations and what's normal expenses and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think 6 weeks or something.
So I'm glad you said that, because I said my best guess was 5 weeks, so I was pretty close. The other thing is, if we hired a city manager, what am I saying here?
Finance director.
A finance director that came from a bigger town, with a bigger budget or a similar budget, does that help shorten the time? I mean, you said you came from the county doing something, probably from a smaller budget, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
at that time.
the county auditor over there basically does what I do here, but, in that environment, which is a different environment, somewhat. Of course, every city tends to operate a little differently. I think you're going to need that, 6 weeks,
Okay.
whether they come from whatever, because what they're trying to do is learn how does we work here, because he needs to know that, or she, just to know, is there anything I'd like to do differently, because everybody's got a way that they tend to like, there's more than one possibility on how to do something, so they need to know how we do it before they can decide if they want to change anything or not.
Okay, well, I'll open up to,
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Rob can answer this, I assume. In your email, you have on August 6th, you're actually talking with someone. How does that fit into all this?
Correct. We have interviewed one person once, and it was virtual because of the distance. Of course, Gene was a part of that, and we have set up a second in-person interview.
He's already bought his plane tickets, all the arrangements have been made, he will be here on the 6th.
All right, then my next question would be if this individual is favorable and Gene is impressed with him, where do we go then?
At that point, we could come back to council and make our recommendation that this is the person that we have selected and have council confirm our choice.
so my only thing with that is that you heard Gene state that 6 weeks is long enough. I would not, in talking to Mr. Vine on Thursday, I think, you said if this person would hold out that long. Well, I would not be in favor of paying two finance directors for 5 months before we get a city manager. That, to me, that wouldn't make sense, especially when the expert is saying it only takes 6 weeks.
I'm sorry.
Could you come up to the mic?
If we moved forward next week with an offer to this gentleman, I don't anticipate us having him here for 5 months. He lives in Oregon, so I anticipate it would take at least a couple of months before he would even start. So we're not looking at 5 months with this gentleman. I think we would be looking at best, this is August, and I know his wife is employment up there, that he said that we would have to really talk and come together with a start date, and we're not talking about that happening anytime soon, probably within the next 2 months. So I would, whatever date that we would come up with that we think that we want, if we want him to start November 1st, I think he would be on board with November 1st. Is he going to wait 4 or 5 months? No. But 2 months, 2.5 months, I think so. Just from what we discussed with him, I think that's doable. But just as I kind of said earlier, his plane tickets have already been bought. He is already coming, and we do see him as a viable candidate. But that's,
I have a question.
That's all.
How's the
Yes.
vetting process with y'all versus Baker Tilly?
Well, obviously, we're probably not going to go into as much, but my standard process is to do a background check with a background check company. I would generally call the last couple of employers. He's worked for a couple of cities. I would call the last 2 managers that he's been with, and that's we do, of course, a social media search. That's about as much as we can do here.
How long have we been searching for Well, I know,
I'm gonna
give us a little bit of
say
history, I think, because we,
February?
okay, because we were originally looking for an assistant, and then we
Yes.
moved into the actual finance director.
Yes, and when we got a date from Gene and when he would actually confirm his date, we did put a hold on that and said, okay, we weren't getting anything for the assistant finance director either.
Right.
So we decided, well, maybe we would do better by hiring and focusing on the finance director. And then, of course, when he gets here, then he could hire an assistant. But as, you know, just as, you know, or Baker Tilly had said, finance director is a very hard position to recruit for. Those candidates are very far and few between, especially that want to come to Paris, Texas. So the one candidate that we do have, I mean, we've gotten some candidates, a handful. Not all of them, with quite a few of them, most of them do not have any municipal experience whatsoever. So the one candidate that we do have seems pretty viable. He had a really good first interview, and he does have municipal experience. So we'll see. You know, we're taking him to a second interview. So
So how would the city of Paris's search compare to a Baker Tilly's search?
well, Baker Tilly has a database.
Right.
And like she said, 70% of all city managers and assistant city managers are in their database already. So that's where they're direct calling. They are direct calling, they're direct emailing. I don't have that information,
So-
and I don't have that database, so.
So my point to that, you're from the HR background. As a city council, wouldn't it be our job, our duty to try to go out and get the best and to get as many as we can, as many finance director applicants as we can, and try to get the best applicant for Paris? And then Baker Tilly, their search would be far more intense.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Their search is going to be way
And
more in depth.
Yeah, my point is, should we rush into this? A finance director is huge. You're
It's
stating the
very
importance
huge.
of it. Everybody has
Very
stated the
huge.
importance of it. So did Baker Tilly. So should we rush into this, or should we take our time? And you said you had one viable applicant, right, in y'all search, but we might have 10 through a Baker Tilly search.
That is correct. With us having a looming date of December 31st, that is of concern. We cannot expect Gene to stay past the 31st. He's given us that date, and he gave us plenty and plenty of notice on that. We just haven't had a lot of candidates. That's,
I-
you know, that's not my decision. It is of concern that there would not be, of us having a period, any period of time, when there's not a finance director on board, that is of very much concern. That person is in charge of our funds, and us not having, and there being any time period that there was not a finance director is very concerning. So I can't answer the question for him of how long he's going to be here. So,
So I think that he's already coming, he has the appointment, that after he comes, then we ask the questions, then we make the decision. I mean, this is already in motion, and maybe the conversation should be held later after. I mean, he could be the absolute best, wonderful thing that everybody loves.
he was a very good
But
candidate
if he's not,
from the first interview we had.
then we have the
Is it
conversation.
appropriate to rely, not to put all the pressure on Gene, but most of it, no, I'm teasing, but depend on you, your recommendation only. Is that appropriate?
Well, he did do an excellent interview. The city that he is coming from was 22,000 population. He worked in somewhere in New Mexico. Was it Las Cruces?
Something like
Yeah.
So he's worked it more than once.
Yeah. He spent a year in Fort Worth, He said that he didn't fit in their little deal, so he, left and took something else.
That's good, what you said.
I don't,
No pressure.
if, I think this guy is worth further looking at. I mean, because he did come across very well. I don't know if you might have Baker Tilly do a quick check on him, so we kind of get that. Their perspective, their kind of research and see if they see anything that's a problem. But if it takes 4 months from now, we're getting close to the end of the year. If we're that close, let's say the new manager doesn't want to come till January the 1st, and it's going to be, another month or 2 months, that wouldn't be a problem. I don't want to stay 6 more months.
Right.
Okay? Because there's all sorts of issues. You get into the audit and all that kind of stuff, and once you're in it, it's hard to drop it and walk away.
Right.
We appreciate that. And I just want to clarify something. I'm not trying to shut down the process that y'all are in with the candidate. That's not what I'm saying. But as a city council member, I think it's all of our job to explore every option for our citizens, to get the best bang for the buck. So that's why I'm asking all these questions. So I like what Gene just said. If he has the second interview and it looks good, what would be the problem paying a little money at this important position and have Baker Tilly to vet him as well?
I agree, and I think that hey, let's let this interview play out. If we can get an understanding of how this interview goes and how staff doing your position, doing your job, let us know how the interview goes, and then we take the recommendation from there. What does council feel about that? You guys feel pretty good?
Agree.
And I think this is a good discussion because at least it provides good transparency to understand, hey, where are we at, right? And what are our options? So fantastic. I think that overall, this is a good discussion. Gene, I just want to say real quick, months are coming to a close very quickly. We're about to enter into August, and we really appreciate you, but God bless you. You've been here for a long time. I'm not going to put the number out there, but we really do entrust in your guidance here of who your successor would be. So thank you, and keep us open.
Well, I think the timing will fall into place.
Yes, sir.
I picked the end of this year because I'll finish 40 years.
Yes, sir.
If I make it to the end of December. I'd like to do that. I'd hate to say, I worked 39 years and 11 months, and so what happened that other month?
Yeah, and I do have to say that, we do value Gene's input on this hire because he is the expert, the subject matter expert. And, even though I actually did some auditing, I know lots of terms, but I would not be able to pull information out of a candidate to determine if this candidate is going to be the best. Gene is our person for that. And he was there the first interview, and he said, sure, I think he was going to interview, let's bring him in. And we valued that. We valued that if Gene said he's worth bringing in, then we should bring him in.
Agree.
And if he had said no, we would have just moved on. So we do value his input greatly.
So do we.
Yes. Well, thank you. I think that provides enough direction. We want to continue with that interview.
Yes, and I would add one other thing as well, that we were not having very much success with getting applicants, so we did reach out to SGR and contact with them on the finance position, and we did get a few more applicants, but still probably not the number that we had hoped for.
But our candidate that is coming back was independent. He didn't come to us through SGR.
All they did was advertise for us. We didn't take the full package like we hoped.
There
they
are
would.
several
Yes, there are different
levels
tiers.
that you can purchase from these search firms. And at that time, city manager had agreed to just do a marketing package, which actually included the brochure that, like they were talking about. So we did the brochure. They put it out again for 30 days, just like they always do, to their network. They posted it on, the websites that they talk about, and we got a handful. I mean, and just like they said, the finance director position is so complicated to recruit for in a small town, especially. We got still very little qualified candidates for that position. And so that is why I say when you do get one candidate that seems to be pretty good, and it's just like she had said, boy, if you can find a candidate that's willing to be here, that has the experience, you really want to look hard at them, because it's just so specialized to find someone with municipal accounting experience. So we did SGR, we used them for marketing, a way less cost than an actual search, obviously, but that did not produce a whole lot either, so just letting you know that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, anything else from council? Feel pretty good? All right. Agenda item number 6, adjourning to executive session under Texas Government Code Section 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of public officer or employee, to wit, city manager, interim city manager, and department heads. The time is now 6:31 p.m., and the city council will convene into executive session. No action is taken, and I will hear a motion to go ahead and convene back into open session. Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item number 8, adjournment. I will hear a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All right, we are adjourned.